just going to go ahead and allow a few seconds for folks to continue to filter in and join us this morning for this wonderful industry chat. So please, as always, enjoy this opening slide and get psyched, get pumped for our chat today. We have Haneesh. Haneesh, are you excited?
Yes, I am. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as people continue to filter in, I just have a couple of housekeeping items. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenna Quinn, and it's my pleasure as the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement to welcome you all to this 49er Industry Chat today. We just need to let you know that this chat is being recorded. So what that really means for you is that this will be available for you to view at later times, and feel free to share it with a colleague, share it with a friend, or anyone else who isn't here today who might get something great out of this. Since it's a webinar format, though, if you're here live today, we encourage you to use that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to go ahead and submit your questions for our guest speaker today. You don't have to wait until the end. If something pops into your head and you're like, oh, I want to know more about that, or some question that you may have, just go ahead and pop it in right away, and we'll get that relayed. And so with that, I'm happy to welcome our speaker today, Haneesh Marella. Hi, Haneesh. Hi, Haneesh.
Hey, Jenna. Thank you for the invite. Happy to be here. I'm excited to share my experiences and journey along the way.
Awesome. Well, before I turn it over to you, let me just read out your bio really quick. So Haneesh works as a senior product manager at a Fortune 500 utility company, Entergy, leading their advanced analytics team, supporting the power generation analytics use cases. With 7+ years experience in various portfolios of business intelligence and analytic projects across roles spanning from analytics leaderships to analytics development, Haneesh has owned and managed strategic initiatives, built and led data teams, implemented agile practices, executed multi-million-dollar product development roadmaps, collaborated with executive leadership and business partners across various industries. So we're very excited today, Haneesh, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, awesome. So I do have a presentation that I prepared. So I'm going to share my screen and walk through some of it. So,
Perfect.
Right.
Looks good.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna start my laser pointer. All right. So, hello everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm gonna share my journey and experience so far in the area of analytics, as well as some of my day-to-day life, my personal information, I guess. So, so I kind of created this agenda slide. I'll start with my introduction. Then I'll move on to my journey, kind of my professional and educational background, the career milestones which helped me advance in my career, share some of my workplace information, what I do, how's my typical day. Then I'll jump into the analytics discussion. What is analytics, the different kinds of analytics, the career paths, a little bit of artificial intelligence that I'm aware of. Like I said, careers, and then some of my tips and tricks that I think helped me along my journey as I explored various career options and my professional development. All right, I'll start off with my background. Here's a picture of me in front of the university back in 2017 when I graduated. I'm originally from Hyderabad. It's a city in the southern part of India. I guess you might have met people from that area in the US. I live in the Woodlands, Texas. This is about 30-minute north of Houston area. Um, Very hot weather. If you have a chance to remain in California, I would encourage that, considering the weather. Um, I moved to the US back in 2015. I moved to Long Beach, California to pursue my grad school at CSULB. Been 7 years, and I'm planning to actually visit SoCal in the month of September. So hopefully I'll go back to the university and relive some of the memories. So far, I've lived in 5 cities in the last 7 years. I moved to Dallas, Nashville, Memphis, and Houston for various job opportunities. Very flexible in moving, so that's a good thing for me. Although in the last 5 years out of 7, I'm stuck in the south of the US in the hot, humid weather, which I'm not a very big fan of. So um, that's an interesting aspect. All right, so in my free time, I like volunteering. I volunteer for a group called Murder Accountability Project. I used to be an active volunteer. Right now, it's more of whenever they need some kind of help, I help them out. But essentially, this is a nonprofit set up to educate Americans on importance of accurately accounting for unsolved homicides in the United States. And the part I played was gathering data of various homicides in the US and trying to make the connections between them and identify potential serial killings. Then they would use that visuals to kind of engage with law enforcement for potential investigations. So that's kind of in the field of analytics as well for me. All right. I do like road trips. I've road tripped to about 30 states. Usually my favorite time is during Christmas time. Just work is slow, time to take vacation, all the saved up vacation during the year, and then just go for those road trips. Right, and classic cars. I like classic cars. I used to own a 65 Mustang, a 67 Mustang that I recently sold about 3 weeks ago. And I like going to classic car shows and participating in them. All right, so this is my contact information in case you have any questions popping up or uh, would like to know more information about anything else regarding analytics after this presentation. You can always feel free to email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. All right, so I just wanted to put in this fact here. So the city I'm from, the population is about 10.8 million, and the size is about 251 square miles, which is equivalent to the state of Georgia, which is 59,000 square miles with about the same population. So I found that to be very interesting, just the density of population from the place I'm from. And then when I moved to the US, where sometimes you don't see people for days together. Even though I live in a condo building, I hardly ever see my neighbors. So that's kind of a change for me coming from a very busy place. All right, I'm gonna explain or walk through my journey so far in my career education. So I have a bachelor's in computer science engineering. This is back in India. And again, I guess I don't know if things changed a lot in the 7 years I haven't lived in India. But back then, it's mostly you either have to do an engineering degree, computer science, mechanical, electrical, whatever, or you go into the field of medicine, become a doctor or a lawyer. So it's kind of like the Asian thing to do, I guess. So I had to take up computer science, which I felt was something I could do in all different fields of engineering. I do not like electrical engineering. I graduated and then I worked as an analyst at Amazon. This was back in India as well. The interesting part back there was that they have walk-in interviews. So unlike here, where you get contacted by a recruiter, you can just walk in where they announce saying that, hey, we have a walk-in happening today. You can feel free. And then go in there. There are a bunch of people standing in line. Then you go in, do your interview, written exam, whatever it is, the process to get in there. So I went in for an interview. Um, did not work out. And then about a week later, I got a call from a different recruiter who kind of said they were interested to, talk to me. And there was a different walk-in for a different team. I went in there after 7 hours of interview, written exams, so on and so forth. I got the job. So that was my very first experience of getting a job professionally at a company. So as I was first working at Amazon, I'm a person who kind of gets bored pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, what do I do to make a significant change? So I was like, okay, let me just move to a different country and pursue a degree that I might be interested in. So um, did some research. Amazon was big on supply chain back then. It was kind of starting to ramp up in that field. So I thought, okay, this field seems interesting. Did my research and found that California State Long Beach was offering the course. And I was part of the first cohort that they started, which was a interesting part as well. So there you go. I did my master's in supply chain management at CSULB. Those were fun times, simple times, coming in as a student, new country, new city. The funny part was as I landed in LAX, and this is me first time traveling outside my country, right? So directly to US. Uh, on the way to Long Beach from LAX, I was like, everything feels very familiar, like I've visited before. Then I thought through it. Then I remember that, oh, it's basically the GTA game I used to play back in India. So it was basically similar roads, similar freeways, cars, and it was pretty funny to relate to that. I told the Uber driver and he was laughing. I still remember that part.
I think that's great. If you want to get a feel of what it's like, just play that game.
Right. Yeah. So I've done that. Then again, like I said, really good times. University, as I joined the university, came in the first day. There were two things I did. One was I joined the International Students Association so that I can make some friends, meet new people. And then I also met with my program coordinator, Jose Martinez, back then, and kind of uh, told him, hey, my interest in finding a graduate assistantship so that I can make some part-time money and kind of build my profile too at the same time and help manage my finances as a student. It's not cheap in California, so I did that. He was very helpful. He introduced me or referred me to a GA position in the marketing department. I worked as a graduate assistant pretty much all throughout my master's under Dr. Sam Min. Uh, Very grateful for that. He was very flexible with my schedule. I had to take 4 courses a semester, so it was not easy. So time to time, he would let me work from home and grade the papers for students. And then evenings, he would want me to proctor some of the undergrad exams. So that was pretty interesting. I've never done that before, right? So one other experience of this whole journey was the immigration side of things. So as you come in as a student, you have a ton of immigration paperwork you have to go through at every stage as a student, after graduation, when you start work, and through these different sets of visas that you need to transfer. So right now I can probably become a good assistant for an immigration attorney anywhere. So I've just been through so much paperwork. So that's been fun. Um, Having said that, also during my master's, I did an internship at a textile company based in Huntington Beach. That was a good experience. Got it through my uh, a classmate friend, Evelyn, so she helped me get a graduate assistantship. So I guess it's good to make some friends in your class. So you never know where it could lead.
Yeah,
Um,
it sounds like networking was really important for you in doing that.
mhm.
But I'm a little curious, like, what was it like juggling school and work, right? Like the job that you had outside and the graduate assistantship. Um,
Mhm.
how was that for you? How did you handle that?
So it was not easy. In the beginning, when I was working as a GA and also taking 4 courses, I did not have a car, so I had to take the bus all the time. So time management was key, of course. So I had to balance out making sure I'm on time wherever I go. Uh, uh, then taking advantage of the situation. So if I'm in the university already, I would just do my GA work, then go to the library and kind of do my coursework, balance it out. And then when I started my internship is when I got a car. I used the old car, but I needed it because I had to drive to Huntington Beach. Um, so that helped me kind of for my last semester because I was working as a GA, doing my internship, and also doing my capstone project at the same time. So I guess that's kind of how it went. Um, all right. Oh, also one more memory I do remember is my very good friend, classmate Najmi. Uh, in one of the semesters, I just got 15 hours of GA instead of 20 hours that you get sometimes. So, and she got 20 hours. So she kind of sacrificed 5 hours of hers and she referred me for those 5 hours to kind of add up to mine. So that was very nice of her. So good memories basically at CSPLB. All right. So after I graduated, I moved to Dallas. I worked at Verizon. It was a contract job, but I worked as a business data analyst. I'll kind of explain what I was doing through my career in the next slides. After which, Dallas was too hot for me. I was like, okay, I need to find some other nicer city to go to. And one winter vacation, I was driving through Nashville. I was like, okay, this place seems interesting. And I kind of had a referral there. And I moved to Nashville to work at Siva Logistics, doing some of their business intelligence work. Um, After which I was like, okay, time to move on, bored of this job, so new job. Then I basically found a senior, it was a business applications analyst, but I would say my role revolved more around program management. So for their business intelligence team at FedEx. So I moved to Memphis for that opportunity. Lived and worked there for about 3 years. And then I was like, okay, one more job, let's go. And then finally I'm working now at Entergy as their senior product manager. We build advanced analytics products for different teams within the company. And that's pretty much my role, trying to build products by leading a team of experts, let's say. All right, so I'm going to move on to the career advancement milestones, which I would call basically, these are pretty much, I would categorize how I could progress in my career, hoping it would help people get a perspective, I guess. So I bucketed them into 5 categories, starting with, I'd say business basics. So this is when I worked at Amazon. I realized how important it was not just doing your job of, be it pulling data from somewhere or trying to analyze data, but also trying to understand what is the business about, how what you're doing impacts the business as a whole, and how the process runs across the board. So that's where I would say I've gained the skill of trying to understand how the operations are run, how the team works towards supporting those operations, whatever it may be, right? Different companies have different processes, different products. And then that's where I kind of worked on Excel a lot, gained a lot of skills on Excel, advanced Excel, pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, which are pretty, I think it's a good start for anybody who wants to get into analytics career, because that's something which would be beneficial for rest of your career using Excel. Second one, which I categorize as front-end development. Basically, these are products that users would use on the front end, kind of like a business intelligence dashboard that you see with different graphs. Then I learned how to query data behind the scenes, right? And then I pretty much learned the skill of what a true user experience would look like or should look like. This was while I was working at Verizon in Dallas, essentially trying to understand what is that the leadership looks at, how the experience should feel like when you create products, and then basically tell it storytelling. So basically everybody can look at data, but there are few who can tell a story out of the data. So that's something you would want to master along your career or focus on. Third, I would say process improvements. When I moved to Nashville, working at Siva Logistics, being a logistics company, they're always focused on how can they improve their process, make it more efficient, and optimize it so that they can, save more money. So I've got into that efficiency mindset. So whenever I look at any project or product that I work on, I try to see what's the best way I could make it simpler, faster, easier for people to use. And that's kind of how I trained myself through these various job experiences. Um, of course, data-driven recommendations. So you would want to always base your recommendations on facts, figures, whenever you can. Learned some of the project management and stakeholder engagement skills, meeting with different business teams, trying to understand what their process is or how they want to improve it, and kind of supporting them. So that kind of helped. So in combination of these three with learning behind the scenes at FedEx, so it's been a great experience working at FedEx, understanding the different tools, technologies they used, basically the architectures from a business standpoint. So there's always a design or a flow that happens whenever you work on any of the business operations, and then how the technical side of these business processes work and how they flow in terms of data. So that has been very helpful, very valuable to understand behind the scenes. So all in all, these four steps combined with basically leadership, right? You want to manage people, you want to manage the strategy. Uh, One thing you need to be aware of is the emotional intelligence. Not everybody works the same way. Not everybody functions or thinks the same way. So you would want to flex yourself and adjust yourself to understand their mindset and look for the things that work best for everybody. So I would say these are the five, combination of five that would usually help anybody, not just me, right? Progress quicker in their career and get to a nice place where you want to be, whatever your goal is, ambition is. So, okay. So moving on to where I work. So I work for a company called Entergy. It's basically a Fortune 500 company. It provides utility services for about 3 million customers in 4 states, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. So I'm kind of married to the South right now, I guess. So unless I found an electric company in California, I can move to at some point. They are headquartered in New Orleans and have about 12,000 employees. I did find these facts on their website that I thought would be interesting. They're about 100 years in service, 3 million customers. They also distribute natural gas, so they have about 200,000 customers. Fortune 500 company, like I said. I guess they have generation fleet, distribution, transmission. So one thing that I've learned, which I was not aware of, is when I joined Entergy, is the amount of work that goes behind uh, for people to receive the electric services that they receive. It's just tremendous, very technical, business intensive, regulatory, a lot of government involvement, a lot of politics, of course. So it was very eye-opening once I started working in this sector. just very interesting. I got a chance to go to these power plants where they generate this electricity and get a tour of the place. It was very interesting. I think that's something people should definitely explore. This is an industry that's not really looked at. Most are aware of, oh, technology companies, Amazon or Google, all the famous ones, Meta. So um, having said that, like I mentioned, they have electric utilities. They generate, transmit, and distribute and sell electric power, as well as distribute the natural gas. Uh, Basically, they have 5 operating companies. So Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Orleans, and Texas. I know New Orleans is in Louisiana, but it has something to do with the way they acquired the company. So they kept it as a separate operating company to function as. All right, I'm gonna plug in a fact here. So this is regarding the rotten egg smell of natural gas is basically added by a power company so that you can detect the gas leak, because essentially these gases are odorless, no smell. So I guess they added a harmless chemical which would help you detect it to avoid any dangerous situations. So I
I
thought
think
that
the
would be
real
something
question,
interesting.
though, is why did they choose rotten egg and not something nicer?
I guess if it's something nicer, they're not gonna report it, right? They're gonna be like, oh, feels good.
Good call.
So,
Good call.
yeah, at least they did not add a more terrible smell than that, right? So,
Right. We should be thanking our lucky stars.
yeah. All right. And I'll go through some of the Entergy operations, what they do as their business model. Like I said, it's always important to know what a company does when you're working for it. And I thought I'd share this, which is interesting. Um, so this is a typical way a utility company works. So they have a bunch of power plants, right? It could be nuclear power plants. It could be natural gas, coal-based, so on and so forth. So that's where they generate the electricity. They run their turbines. That flows through something called the transmission lines. So if you compare a power generation plant to something that you might relate to, it's like a car engine, right? So your car engine is running, it's producing, smoke or whatever, but for them it's electricity. And then it carries through the transmission lines, which is kind of like your freeway or interstate network. It carries it from, these are the major lines being carried from across different regions, different states. And then these lines go through something called distribution lines, which are basically, if you consider, it's like your local streets, right? So you have your electric poles in most streets. So these are distribution lines. Sometimes you won't see those poles because they're underground. So all the wiring is underground. Um, and then essentially you get the power to your place. So Entergy is known for a generation capacity of 19,000 megawatts using 28 of their natural gas, oil, hydroelectric, coal facilities, 5,200 nuclear, 9,000 through renewable energy, solar, wind, so on and so forth. Just to give a perspective, a megawatt is, it gives instantaneous power to, let's say, on average from 600 to 1,000 homes, depending on the size of the home. So that's just 1 megawatt. And if you can imagine combination of all this, it powers a lot of people, right? Then they have transmission network of about 16,000 miles and 1,300 substations. Substations are where it kind of, they step up, step down the electricity. You might see it in your neighborhood, you might not pay attention, maybe you can after this. So now I pay more attention when I see these lines, when I go through my road trips and look at substations, which is interesting. And then they have distribution of about 100,000 miles across their 91,000 service area, square mile service area. So this is high level what they do in a way. All right, I'm gonna go to my work overview. So I work for a team called Business Data and Insights, and the goal of this team as a part of Entergy is to uh, develop analytics solutions. to various other teams within Entergy. So basically, we try to identify a business problem and see how we can use data and our solutions to kind of solve that business problems. It could be reduction of manual time for people to work on that business problem. It could be something we need to forecast or predict for them. So basically, could range across set of problems. I work as a senior product manager. So basically, I'm accountable for building, delivering these analytics products. And my area of focus is the power generation business. So one of the projects that I'm working on right now is trying to identify how much gas is required for these power plants to produce the kind of electricity needed for the market. So usually the gas traders need to go into the gas market the day before and try to buy up the gas. So it's a very complicated market from what I saw. It's not that simple like I describe it to be, but they have to go trade gas. You go to different pipelines, you try to negotiate, and you have your deals and contracts in place. So you buy up the gas and transact that gas towards the power plant so that they can burn. And anytime you buy too much gas or buy too little, you have to go back into the market on the day of electric production, which means you're spending more money. And usually, typically, companies spend billions of dollars on buying these natural gas to produce energy. So our goal is to kind of reduce that buying too much or buying too little variance. And that would, let's say you save like 5-10%, those are millions of dollars that you're saving the company. So that's kind of the project I'm working on. So basically the product team that I lead has a bunch of different skill sets. So there are roles who are business analysts, data engineers, data scientists, a designer to design the product, and solution architect to design the solution. So I will kind of go through these roles later on when we talk about careers paths available in the analytics field. All right. So having said that, I apologize if you're able to hear the mowing sound outside. So lawnmowers around.
You're good. We're good.
Okay. I guess my headset is working fine. Okay. So my typical work day. So 80% of my day goes uh, engaging with the technical team, basically what we want to deliver, how we want to build it. So this happens through various meetings, of course. My job is hybrid, so I go in 2 days a week into the office. Uh, so we have a bunch of meetings, engage, discuss, brainstorm, whatever you want to call it. Then we follow something called agile, which is a project management methodology, where you have a cadence of meetings you need to follow, and how you plan the work for a certain number of weeks at a time, so that you can flex your capacity up and down based on people available to complete the work. So the idea is iterative building. So you build, you release, and then you go back and build based on the feedback. So that's something important if most companies are going agile these days. All right. So the next part that I do, 10%, is work with the business planning team. So basically, these are the intermediate team between the technical team and the end users. So I interact with them, try to understand what are we trying to build, what is coming in our pipeline as more products, new products in the future, and how do we prioritize and build out something called a roadmap, where you show, okay, this is how much time it's going to take to build out a certain product, so that the end users could look at it and be like, hey, this works for me, or no, it's too long of a time, so on and so forth. And then 10% with the business owners. So basically, these are the business sponsors who probably would pay for the product later on. And basically the end users. And also they are the subject matter experts, because they are expert in the domain, have the knowledge of the process, while we are experts in building the product. So we have to collaborate and engage and kind of walk through some of the questions, blockers we might have. So this makes up 100%, but who actually works just 8 hours, right? So I had to add some of the things that I get to do. We go for happy hours, of course, after work, sometimes during work. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully nobody's seeing from my company, but
I won't tell them. I won't tell
they'll find me on YouTube, so we don't want that. So.
them.
And then I wrote boat rides because I'll show a picture later, but it's pretty cool. I guess oops. So my bad. All right, here basically is the picture I was talking about. So that's the office we have in Texas, and it's right in front of the lake, which is a
Lucky
pretty cool
ducks.
lake.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we have a boat parked right outside for people working in that building. So it's an electric boat. You can sign a waiver, take the boat, go for a ride. So we kind of do that time to time. These first two pictures I forgot to mention. Basically, this is the power plant. As you see, it's humongous. It's really huge in the backside too. This is just the front side of it. But this is when we went for the tour. One thing I underestimated was that it was an outdoor tour and it was super cold that day. And I should have been better prepared for that. And this is basically the team. The company is, as you see, is big on diversity and inclusion. So you see people from all different backgrounds. So that's a cool thing to work at this company. All right, so I guess we've done this. So, all right, moving on to analytics. So just a brief introduction on analytics. Although I did read an interesting article a bunch of months or years ago where The Economist, which is the media company, right? So they said the world's most valuable resource is no longer oil, but data. So, which is very true because everything is data these days. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you trying to figure out what career you want to go to. This is the place where there's a tremendous career growth. So what is analytics, right? So it's nothing but a bunch of methods that you use. It's a branch of computer science, of course, but also it's a bunch of methods that you use to identify meaningful patterns in data. So it includes, you discover data sets, you kind of dig through them, drill down, whatnot, and identify certain patterns or insights. So basically, essentially, it boils down to storytelling, right? What story can you tell by looking at the data? So that's basically analytics. You might hear the term business analytics. It's basically nothing but this methodology applied to business data. So it focuses on the business implications of data and what you need to do as a result of those. So for example, some of the examples I put here for business analytics is financial analytics, supply chain, marketing analytics. Everything has to do with data. You look at data and try to identify the patterns and kind of make your decisions based on it. All right, so how would you categorize analytics? These are some industry standards. There are 4 categories of analytics. So it's descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. So as you go through this, the value is increasing as well as the complexity of work, of course. So descriptive analytics is basically the simplest form of analytics. So this describes what has already happened in a business. Uh, it's also traditionally called as business intelligence that you might find across. If you just go Google business intelligence, you'll find a bunch of positions, roles, projects, whatever. So that's what it is, basically. It explains what has happened so far based on the data. So the next part is diagnostic analytics. It basically adds on to descriptive analytics. It kind of gives the reasoning behind what happened. So essentially explaining why did it happen. So it's nothing but you use different techniques, like you drill down into the data, you try to identify the correlations at a deeper level and see what the root cause is for what happened. And that's basically trying to identify the cause for the event or behavior. So that's diagnostic. Then you have the third category, predictive analytics. This is the space that I work in right now. So it's, as the word says, predictive, right? You try to predict what is going to happen next. So this involves a bunch of model creation, which are pretty advanced in nature. You have to build out these complex algorithms, depending on, of course, the size of the project and the complexity of the business problem. You use a bunch of different techniques to basically predict this. These are usually used these days in many companies, which try to predict the future, right? Their growth, for example. The next part is prescriptive analytics. This is like the state of the art type of analytics, which builds based on the descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive analytics. And basically, it recommends or kind of takes the next course of action based on what it has seen so far. So essentially giving you the best next course of action is what it does. All right. Artificial intelligence. We hear a lot about AI all the time. Everybody is talking about AI. These robots gonna come take over, and you see it in the movies and things of that nature. But so what is AI, right? So basically, it leverages computers and machines. So basically, you build out these programs which mimic the problem solving and decision making capabilities of a human mind. So that's AI. So it's an umbrella term, and it's a very vast field. I'm still learning. It's coming up in the industries which usually are not technologically advanced. So it's kind of like technology companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, all of these advanced companies, they are already into it. But if you think about the other industries, logistics, utilities, they're heavily focused on operations and not the technology side, but they are starting to discover the benefits and adopting to the new technologies such as these. So like I said, AI is an ever evolving field. There's always continuous research and development. It has a bunch of subfields. Some of them I try to learn, understand, and some of them they just go right above my head because it's very, very complex. So having said that, I thought I'd show some subfields that might make sense. One is something you'll hear is machine learning. So basically, these are, again, bunch of code being written to teach machines to learn from a certain experience and perform a certain task, right? So you teach a machine how to, when I say machine, it could be just a computer program, a software. You try to teach it, hey, here's your input data you need to look at. And I want you to make a decision on how much gas I need to buy tomorrow. And it will go through all the historical data, try to understand, learn from it, and spit out this number for you. So that's basically performing a certain task based on how they call it training. You train it based on the data. So that's machine learning. There's something called deep learning that you might hear around. So deep learning, you can also consider it as a subfield for machine learning. It's basically where it performs a task, but with reasoning. So the program is able to reason for the kind of decision it made. So for example, the machine learning, right? I put it as financial fraud. So I don't know if you got this, but if you go traveling to a different country and you use your credit card, you instantaneously get a text message saying that, is this your transaction, yes or no? Or is it, so the machine already knows that if there's a pattern where there's a sudden transaction out of your norm of areas that you travel to, it kind of flags it. So that's the task. And then deep learning example, medical image analysis, right? So you provide these softwares, an X-ray image, and then it's going to tell whether there's any cancerous tumor in there. So within reason. So it's going to go through all this training of various images across different domains, and that's how it kind of works. Next is natural language processing, NLP models. So ChatGPT, which is pretty famous in the news these days. So it's able to basically comprehend, understand, manipulate human language. So whenever you send it a question, it can understand that based on the training it received again, and give you back an answer. So if you haven't tried ChatGPT, you should. It helps you in your cover letters and resumes too. So that's a tip you can try to do. All right. So I think I'll go a bit faster with the time. Robotics. So that's one thing you might be aware of. The vacuum robots in your house, those are kind of AI driven. They kind of map out your house. They know what time to go clean, what time to where to go, what level to clean based on a carpet or a hardwood floor. Then you have your cooking robots that you've seen videos. It makes you food if you put in a certain menu order. You have your logistics robots in the warehouses, which carry different boxes from one place to the other. They know how to navigate around the place. Then you have your autonomous vehicles, which is cars, Tesla vehicles, right? Famous autopilot. They usually, these different categories, they interact with each other. Like autonomous vehicles, they have deep learning in them because they have to make a decision with reason, and then they also have to kind of look at images and videos and kind of train from it. Then you have your flights. I've read somewhere that a pilot usually is actively engaged with the airplane for like 7 minutes of a flight, and the rest of it is just autopilot. It's doing its own thing. So, and then you have your speech recognition, your voice assistants, Alexa, Google, Siri on your iPhone, and then speech to text, which is translations. It writes your text messages when you talk, and so on and so forth. So all of this is part of AI. There are a bunch of much more fields that are available: image analysis, video analysis. There are so many stuff. You can just, once you jump into AI, you can pretty much work anywhere. So, okay. All right, I want to go through the analytics architecture. This is generic industry standard. I tried to put it very generic way so that it would kind of make sense. So you have your data producers. So these data producers are nothing but you and I who are using a certain application, entering data, use scanning boxes in the warehouses. So all of this generates data. They have databases for those specific applications that you use as a data producer. And these source databases are then usually, they use something called data integration, which is nothing but the movement of data from a source to a destination, if I put it in simple terms. So they have various tools and technologies again around the place. So you have that. And that flows into something called a data warehouse, data lake, which are two different purposes. Again, these are all technical stuff, so you can always jump in, do your research, and try to identify which area you would be interested in. Then this is basically a central repository. So most companies, they try to bring data from different applications into a central place so that it's faster, efficient. You don't disrupt the speed of the systems. And there are a lot of advantages for doing such an architecture. Then you would usually have another data integration layer, basically, again, tools to move the data. Then you have something called data mart. Data mart is nothing but each database which consists of certain business specific data: marketing, finance, logistics, sales. So they would have their own category of database just to make sense for the end user. Okay, and then you do your insights, your reports, analytics. You build your advanced analytics models based on these data marts or on the data warehouse. It really depends on how the company is set up to use. So if you're ever curious and you're working in one of these, creating a report, you should always ask, hey, where are these databases? Where are they stored at? Where's my data flowing through? Where is it coming from? So on and so forth. And then you have your consumers, essentially the users of all these output that you have. And then you have your shared services. These are all applicable across the board. You have your governance, which is the framework they say, okay, you cannot combine nuclear data with non-nuclear data. So certain rules like that. If your data privacy, data quality, master data, metadata, these are all different areas you can just research and see if you're interested in. But I thought I'll share that there. All right, so talking about career paths in analytics, of course, you have your project manager, product manager positions. Project manager, somebody who would execute the plan that is required to build the product. And product manager, somebody who prioritizes the product that's needed to be built. So that's one position you can always target for if you're not too much into the technical code development side of things. So that's one area. Business analyst or a business intelligence analyst. So basically, you would be a person who is analyzing the data, looking for trends, insights, querying the data, building reports, building visuals for the end user based on what they would need. Then you have something called data engineer. So basically, the role is to you build tables, you build the data integration, which is movement of the data or data pipelines, which is kind of similar. And then you basically maintain the architecture. Somebody gives you a design of how to build, you go build it as a data engineer. Then you have something called data scientists. So they are responsible for jumping into the data and looking for possible recommendations or possible solutions to solve a business problem. So that's essentially their role. And this is one of the high-paying jobs out there in the market and high demand. Then you have your data governance or a data architect who are responsible for standards, principles, policies, procedures. And data architect basically designs how the data needs to flow from source to destination, as I showed previously. So in the architecture diagram that I showed, where does a business analyst fit in? So they could work with the data producers, try to understand what's the requirement, what is needed to be built from an analytics standpoint. They can work on the insights using the data. They can build out what are the insights that they see, the reports, which are used across different departments. It could be as simple as an Excel report to a very complicated SQL language-based query report. And you have your analytics that you can produce, kind of going as a data analyst, right? So, and also, of course, you could be the consumer of the data in and itself and try to help a business team. Then you have your data engineer role. Data engineer role will fit pretty much everywhere. You could work on the source systems, databases. You can work on the integration, which is movement. You work on the data warehouse, data lake. And then you can work on the data marts. You can work on insights, querying reports. You can work on metadata master. Pretty much data engineer is used to build and maintain all of this. So as a data engineer, you have a vast opportunities there. So you can always specifically work only on data integration if you want, if it's a big enough company that has a team dedicated to it, because they have so much data that they need people specific to each and everything. So data science role. So data science or data scientist, pretty much they focus on building models, statistical models, machine learning models, deep learning models, and they use the data available to build out what is needed for the business problem. So that's pretty much the role of data scientist. Seems very simple in my words. They have the most complex algorithms to build out there. So, all right, data governance architect, they are usually applicable here. Architect, like I said, they design this, how it needs to flow. And the governance, basically frameworks, principles, controls, procedures needed to be followed, the security aspect of it so that the data doesn't get leaked around. All right. This is my last slide. So keeping the time in mind for Q&A, guess I'm already running over. So courses, I would say you could utilize bunch of resources like EDX, Coursera, Udemy. They have all the analytics courses that you would like to take on the side. This is very helpful, has helped me a lot to learn a lot of tools. You can always research different tools and technologies being used by major companies in different industries. For example, agile, like I said, it's a project management methodology, and that you can pretty much learn online. They have a bunch of resources. You have your business intelligence tools. You can master one of it and you can find a job. You have your SQL, which is basically to query data, which is, Oracle, Microsoft, and there are a bunch of companies available out there with their own tools. Then you have your data science products like Python, R, programming. These are different, again, set of tools that you can use. So you can learn all of these. These are very much available anywhere. YouTube, you can just Google them and you'll find a bunch of videos on them. All right, second one, profile, right? So you want to build out your profile. If you're new to this field, it would help to build out your profile using certain projects. So you can always go to online search and find a bunch of data sets you can work on, create some insights, and you can always present them at an interview, right? You create your own PowerPoint slides and go present them saying that I worked on this use case. They're always interested. Internships, of course. One other thing as an alternative to internship is volunteering. So like I mentioned, I do volunteer in an analytics role, and that really helps you not only expand your network, but also you can gain some experience and share that experience in an interview to if you don't have a certain level of experience they're looking for. So I would say that's definitely helpful. Attend networking events, research in advance of who you're meeting, why you're meeting, or what's their area of work. LinkedIn is a good source to go kind of do their background check, quote unquote. So that'll help. If you are somebody like me, at least initial stages of my career, I was very nervous or shy to kind of attend these events. I would say make one good friend who's very good at networking, and that will help you a lot. I had a friend who was very good at networking, and I'm good friends with her. So whenever I needed job change or was looking for something, I would always tap on her shoulder and be like, hey, this person, can you introduce me or send an email with my resume? And they would do that. So that's an alternative trick if you don't want to go to these networking events. LinkedIn, definitely keep it updated. Try to make it about your passion. Keep it generic. Doesn't have to be technical all the time. One thing I've understood is the more you engage on LinkedIn, you go follow new companies and posts and so on and so forth, the more visibility you get on LinkedIn. So other people start, even if they're not in your network, they can look at you popping up saying that you liked a certain post. So if you're looking for a job and you have that open to hiring logo on your picture and you like these posts or comment on this post or engage, there are higher chances than just staying like a observer on LinkedIn in a way. One other recommendation on the resume is you can always design your resume, keep it unique in a way. Definitely a ton of designs out there. Just download the template, change up your design so that it catches the eye of the recruiter, because I've hired a bunch of people, I've interviewed people, and looking at the resumes is the last thing I want to do, especially if they're very heavy on text. I'm not going to sit there and go through each and every line of the resume, right? So, because I have a day job to do. So that's one recommendation. All right, mindset. I wanted to share this because mindset plays a very big role when you're trying to find a career or apply to jobs. First thing, be it networking events or reaching out to people on LinkedIn or emailing anybody, do not be intimidated by their title. Just because somebody has a very higher title doesn't mean they're the most intelligent people, right? They got there because of experience, learnings, whatever, and they're human, they make mistakes. So definitely reach out. At the most, they will say, no, I don't have anything for you, or they'll not reply. So all you need is one job, not 10 jobs. So try to find that one hook or crook, right? So job applications, do not limit yourself just because it says it needs 2 years of experience and you have like a year. Doesn't matter, just apply. Sometimes people They hire for your persistence, passion, and skill set, and not just experience. So nothing wrong. All again, the worst you get is a no, so that's fine. Um, Definitely connect with recruiters on LinkedIn. Here's one thing I do is I always search for a recruiter, let's say a company, right? Recruiter at a company on LinkedIn. There are a bunch of recruiters. And then you can always look for a manager in a company because they are the ones who hire for their team. And then you connect with them and then you send a message saying, hey, I'm in the market. I'm looking for so-and-so role, be it entry level, experienced, whatever it is. I'm open to discussion, open to a chat, and ask them for a time they're available. Worst case, you would just know what they're working on and what they're looking for, and that would help for your career or your job search. So don't hesitate to reach out to people. Don't think of it as stalking. It is not. Recruiters have a goal for their teams as well. They have to present a certain number of candidates, present a certain profiles to the hiring manager, and recruit a certain number of people. So this only increases your chance. Um, you can search for job posts. When I say job posts, it's not the job posting, but when you go search on LinkedIn, for example, saying analytics manager, right? And then there's an option on the left saying posts, which is where people type in some stuff and post on their wall or LinkedIn page. Those will pop up as well, apart from the job postings. That would help because you know exactly who is recruiting for it. And then you connect with them and say, hey, I'm interested in this job that you posted. Are you, do you want to talk to me or something of those sort? And then this is a general life principle that I follow called CAR methodology. So if you're ever in a situation and kind of not sure what direction to take, it's something I use. So you either change the situation, accept the situation, remove the situation, and rise above the situation. So this is a framework I use to make a decision in life when I, be it work or outside work, just in personal life. So I thought that's something helpful. Okay, so this is my last one. Basically, when you're searching for a job and you're not sure where to start with, try to choose the industry you were interested in. For example, I would never apply to a job in medical industry because I have no clue of what the data means. Like I have no understanding of the data. It would just make my job a nightmare for me. So definitely look for the industry you want to work with, be it technology industry, be it utilities. That's something people don't really look jobs in, but it's helpful. Research different companies in that industry. All right. So if you say top 10 companies in logistics industry, you'll get a list of them. So you can find out where their headquarters are at, look for jobs in those areas, and try to figure out how you want to navigate and add recruiters, hiring managers from those companies. Here's one thing. One thing we need to do is beat your competition. When you apply for a remote job, I observe there are like hundreds of people applying because everybody wants a remote job these days. I guess you can cut out the competition by preferring an in-person job or a hybrid job. That would give you more chances of landing an interview. So sometimes it's a matter of luck. You're applying remote job, there are 1,000 resumes, and the hiring manager screens the first 10 and they like 2 of them already. So they're not going to go through the rest of the 990. So you might want to do that, right? So that's one. Filters jobs by state. So this is for people who are willing to move easily across US, relocate like me. I always relocate. So smaller states sometimes have good availabilities. For example, I worked in Memphis, which is a smaller city. People don't usually prefer moving there, but FedEx headquarters is based in Memphis and they had a ton of jobs there. So, and they always look for people. So try to find these smaller states, cities where people don't often move with nicer companies. That's very helpful, easier. Always research the industry and the trends so that you avoid a layoff situation. So for example, when you know there's a recession coming, you wouldn't want to get into a tech industry because that's where they first lay off. It's tech companies. So you would want to go for a more stable industry. It really depends on your priority, right? High risk, high reward, but also if you take low risk, lower salaries, but stable career. So one of those industries, education, working for different universities for sure, that's stable. Utility industry where I work, it's very stable. everybody needs electricity. So that's something helpful. So these are kind of my tips and tricks on how I would recommend for looking for jobs or career opportunities. So that's pretty much it. So I had to put Michael Scott in there. So there you go from the office. So saying thank you.
Yeah, I can always get down with an office reference. That is great.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Haneesh. This has been a very enlightening chat, and I think that we have a really good understanding of what you do and what your industry is about. So just closing it up, I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us today live, and to everyone who watched this recording later on. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing over here at CSULB Alumni, please find us on our website or in any one of our social media channels. And Haneesh, if folks had questions about you and your career trajectory, could you share with them again the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn or my email address. I can put it in the chat if you'd like.
Yeah, we'll get that, and have Alana also stick it in the chat so that way everyone else can see it as well.
Awesome.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you at the next industry chat. Haneesh, if you could just stick around for a moment while we say goodbye to everybody.
All right.
Bye, everyone.